Welcome to the Catalyst for Growth podcast, a place where we talk about everything under the sun regarding the journey of the professional salesperson. Welcome the host of the C4G Sales Success podcast, John Kailunas II. Take it away, big guy.
Welcome to C4G's podcast. This is John Kailunas, and with us today, our illustrious guest, is Mark Grooters. Mark is a colleague of mine at Regal and works the Apex Group, which you've heard about. The Apex Group is a group within Regal that myself, Mark, and Brian Yarch, who's been on this show, talk or work. And so in that group, Mark, I was looking at Redtail today, and we've got about 172 million and about 900 to 1,000 clients in there. All right?
That does sound about right. I mean, the market pulled back, hurt our assets under management, but just a small dip.
Bastards.
Yeah, just a small dip.
No. The reason I wanted to have you on is you bring a whole different dimension to the advisors and how we were traditionally. You came from a career shop, and then you came to us. You came with a high level of intelligence and a high energy level. And when we found you through a marketing program and recruited you over here. And that marketing program didn't work out, but it recognized the talent and the desperate need at Apex that we needed talent. So we've come to terms, and we're partners. So I just want to disclose all that. And for all of you legalese and attorneys, you can look at our disclosure tab. We've got everything kosher with compliance. And we're not going to be giving out any investment advice, but practice management advice to help you grow. And we've grown this thing, as I said, to 172 or so today from kitchen tables. And our clients are the mass affluent. Our average account size is relatively low. I'd like to see that grow, but it's just sort of the nature of being in Western Michigan. Yep. So tell me a little bit about your background. I know you went to Grand Valley, and then you've been through three stages of rehab.
Are we talking completed or started?
Hey, it's how you finish. It's not how you start, right? So you started 3 times, completed once. It's still a victory, man.
Yep, exactly. Hey, a batting average in baseball of 333 is pretty good lifetime.
There you go. So tell me a little bit about your background and why you went into financial services.
Yeah. So, I'm not going to take you through the whole timeline, but I do want to start back when I was
good, because these podcasts are only like 35 to 45 minutes, so I don't need a true play-by-play. I was in kindergarten. I was born a poor Dutch kid from the west side of Michigan.
Yep. All that is true, but the dream actually kind of started. I remember in 4th grade, my teacher gave everybody an award, and my award was most likely to be a salesman. And so at first I was a little insulted by that, but...
That's because you were in the 4th grade 3 times.
Exactly. Yeah. She gave me the same thing, all 3. But then I realized that, you know what? I walked into a business one day and I saw they had a sign up on the wall that said, "Nothing happens until somebody sells something." And that's when I realized that being a sales rep isn't all that bad. And so I had to kind of figure out where I wanted to go with that. Didn't want to be a used car salesman. Not that there's anything wrong with it. Didn't want to go anything like that. So I thought about where there's really a need out there in society. And you know what? They don't teach financial investing when you go to high school or, middle school, whatever. So I saw a pretty good need there. I had a buddy who got started in the industry who thought I would enjoy the role. So I took the plunge, and here I am. What is this, 12 years later now? So,
yeah, 12 years, yeah. Wow.
Yeah. With a stop in college along the way.
Yeah, no, but you've had a good career, and you're going to continue to do so. It's funny. I was smiling, and we're not on video this session, but I was smirking because what you said is that nothing happens until a sale's made, right? Mm-hmm. My dad had that in his office, and my dad was a middle manager for Century Insurance, and I started on the PC side of the business coming here, and he had that in his office, and it was a brown plaque with white writing on it. And I can picture it as I'm looking at you. I can picture that. And it's sort of funny because really, we need to remind our compliance people, our marketing people, and our admin people, and all the great people that we have in financial services to support us, that nothing does happen until a sale's made. And, one of the things I'm seeing, Mark, and I voiced this to you off air, is that, I'm a G1 advisor. So I've helped build the business. When I segue to G2, these younger advisors, when I got to hang up my spurs and I ride into the sunset, right? And no, I'm not going as fast as you want me to. They really look at sales as something very negative. And we've seen it with some of our coworkers, right? And it's not negative. I mean, we're advisors. And I think if we just took the term instead of sales and we use advisors, I think it'd be much more palatable. But you're not going to have a book, at 170 million, that's a nice little book, right? But we lose money every single year. Clients die. And there's a crazy thing. They spend their retirement money. Do you know that, Mark?
Funniest thing, ain't it?
Yeah. So we lose, anywhere from 3 to 8% of the book every year. So if we're not growing it, we've got a melting ice cube. And it's a great ice cube. I mean, we're blessed that I have a lot of gratitude for our clients and the trust they put into us. But we've got to secure that next client, right? We've got to bring that client on. And that's why your prospecting should never quit, right? And you can do it a bunch of different ways. But these younger advisors think that's sort of a negative, and it doesn't work that way.
No.
If you really want to make a great income, you can't be an order taker. And I always tell everybody, and I know you've heard this and you're going to roll your eyes when I say it because I've said it to you 100 times.
Oh boy.
We're in the financial service business, not the financial sales business. And if we take that, and I know you've got a service centered heart. If you take this service, and it's funny, you said your fourth grade teacher said you're going to be a salesman. You go through, I've sat in client appointments with you. You go through the details over and over, probably 3 times with every prospect or client so they understand fully. You articulate your value. You articulate what we're doing. I mean, to the point where I've been in appointments with you and I'm looking at you like, Mark, shut up. I think we got it. Yeah. You've covered this. This horse is dead.
Yep.
And no matter how much you beat it. But, from a compliance standpoint, I think that's wonderful because I know you can be an appointment and we're covered 6 ways from Sunday.
Well, and John, when clients sit in front of an advisor, they're kind of half expecting to be sold, but really what you want to get across to them, or you don't want them to feel sold throughout the process. You want them to feel heard. And so, yeah, that's absolutely what I do. The worst thing that you can have happen is at the end of that meeting or at the end of when you close some business is for that client to come back with buyer's remorse. So you have to remove that from the equation. They have to understand what they're going to buy, even if they don't retain it. They have to understand it at the time. And I wait for that buy-in before I'll close the business.
It's interesting you say that because I had an argument with a manager years ago, literally that I used to mail annuity delivery receipts, right? Instead of hand deliver. And he goes, no, you need to hand deliver it because you need to reinforce the sale. And I'm like, they already know what they purchased. I've gone through it. I don't need to do the job that the postman can do, right? Now I wouldn't trust the post office to deliver anything.
Not anymore.
But back in the days, and this is not Pony Express, Mark, so I don't start that garbage. But I looked at that. When you go over something and the client understands why they buy something, and you're solving an end need. And I'm a big one on absolute performance. So it's not what my accountant did for you this year as a broker. It's what it's going to do for you to get to your end goal.
Absolutely.
If your goal is to retire at 60, we're not worried about what the portfolio does so much on 45 as long as we're on track. We're going to have ups and downs. And I think educating a client like that's really important. How do you wrap that client education in your service philosophy? Because I think it's really unique. I've sat in hundreds of reps. That's why I guess I'm somewhat of a self-appointed authority here of doing these interviews, right? I've seen a ton of people. And I think your approach to education is very unique. It's very thorough.
I appreciate that. And I do have a certain system that I go about. So I will always preface when I'm talking with clients, I'll start out with, we're going to do a 30,000 foot view and we're going to zoom in on wherever you want to zoom in and spend as much time on it. So I think that when I'm in a meeting, and I do take pride in this, trying to capture the high level points that you need to get across to people. And then some of them will come right out and they'll ask you to dive deeper. They'll say, tell me more about this. Tell me more about this. But really what you got to do is you got to be able to read the nonverbal cues, figure out what's important to them. And then as you're doing the 30,000 foot, you focus it in on what's important to them.
That's, I think, a very unique philosophy, and I think that's a very smart and wise philosophy. I think about when I go into my attorney and talk about estate planning and we need to do this for the kids or what's going to happen. I don't know the rules of law. I know enough to be dangerous, but I know what I want.
Yep.
And it's up for that attorney, for me to express myself well enough that the attorney can use his talents and resources to get me to where I want. But I don't need to know what type of trust needs to be set up or this or that. Or I mean, I see it. I understand it. I review it. But that's not why I'm paying him all that money, because I'm paying him a fortune, right?
Yep.
So, he should know his craft and he should be able to articulate his value to me by the way he looks at the 30,000 foot level and assures me with confidence that I'm going to get there. And this is how, with these steps.
Exactly.
As he discloses it.
Exactly. And that attorney, just like us, John, yeah, we know the stuff inside and out. But the bottom line is that client sitting across from you, they want to know what time it is, not how the clock works. And if you can effectively get that through to them, they're going to do business with you.
Well, yeah, I'm using this estate planning thing. I met him 2 weeks ago, right? I can give you the broad strokes of what he talked about, but I can't give you the details.
Probably a good attorney then, isn't he?
I mean, because there was a sugar load of information he gave me, and I'm confident that it's done right, but I don't have the capacity to hold that information for all these. I'm worried about my business, Regal. I'm worried about Apex. I'm worried about all these other things, my family. I've outsourced this to him to take care of it, and I trust that he'll do it. But I really appreciate the high level view and drilling down with what's important to me. Because when Deborah and I sat down and talked about it, she had concerns about the wills and trusts that I never thought of.
Yep.
And so I let, I've been married 30 years, so I learned something. Let her talk to the attorney, right? She said here were the concerns of what this was going to happen. Could this happen? Could that happen? And then I addressed mine. But he came back, listened to everything, and then gave us a plan and then said we need to do this along with prices and all the disclosures he has to do, and we moved ahead with it. But I felt comfortable with it. It wasn't, when you go to an appointment, it's painful.
Yeah.
I don't want those appointments at 60 years old anymore.
No. You hit the nail on the head, though, John. You said it in a little bit different words, but I've always been told that people are going to work with people that they like, know, and trust. If you can check those boxes in a first meeting, I'm willing to bet that second meeting's going to go really well, and probably third, fourth, and all the annual reviews moving forward.
If you would like to be a guest on the C4G podcast, please contact us at info@catalystforgrowth.org or 813-454-0557. Primetime players only. Bring your A game or don't contact us.
All right, let's switch bases here. Got a couple of minutes before our break here. When we met you, you were independent, but you had started with Edward Jones, and I know you have a very fond part of your heart and respect for Edward Jones.
I do.
So now you're fully independent, right? So there's pluses and minuses with everything, right? There's good, the bad, and in your case, the ugly. So you think I'm going to let you get away on a podcast?
I knew something.
And I'm going to edit this too. So if you will call me fat or bald or not bright, I'm going to edit that out, Grooters. So you can't use that against me. I got the power of the edit button here. But what is just quickly sort of frame the good and the bad, and not malicious. I know you're not malicious about your time there. You're very respectful. Why it worked for you and why it didn't work for you, and what works for you in the independent world and what doesn't work for you. Because there are going to be people that are listening that are in a career shop, and the green, this is what I'm asking you is the grass is always greener.
Yeah. Right.
Oh, look at that. It's better than over here. I'll tell you what, I've been in a whole bunch of different distribution, and there's good and bad with all of them. And it depends on where you are in your life.
Yes.
For me, right? And now I couldn't go any other place because I'm so independent. I'm belligerent, right? So I couldn't go into a system, but I started in a system and I ran a system. So let's go back to reframing the question here and me repeating the question. What were the good and the plus of a career distribution system as strong as Edward Jones? And the good and the bad and the ugly about the independent?
Yeah, absolutely. So starting off with the Edward Jones, the good is number one is they have an excellent training program. And being that I didn't have a background in this, I needed that. You're
really strong with the X's and O's, and you credit that to Edward Jones?
Absolutely. Okay. Yep. They make you do it the right way. And once you get the training part done, they do a really, really good job of hammering into you that you need a process, you have to have systems in place, and you have to be consistent.
Are you allowed to use your own process, your own system, or
No.
is it's theirs?
That's where, and I was going to wait a little bit to hit on the negatives, but that's exactly right. So they're really good at that. They hammer that home. They do have a good mentorship program where you have an older advisor that's looking out for you and helping you along the way. That's all good. On the flip side,
Do you revenue share in that mentorship relationship?
no.
Oh, okay. So
That is one thing unique about Edward Jones.
there's good and bad of that, though.
There is good and bad.
I mean, you could have a great guy, just a mensch who wants to share the because this is a trade that we have, right? There's a skill and there's an art to this, and there's also a science, right? There's an art and science. You could have somebody that wants to pass on just for posterity's sake, part of his legacy, right?
Yep.
Or you could have a guy that is just complete mercenary and doesn't want to do anything but for a buck.
Mm-hmm.
And if he's not getting paid, he's not going to give you time, or she's not going to give you time. So it's admirable, right?
Yes.
It's very smart, Edward Jones, because it doesn't cost them anything.
Exactly.
But you could also be getting some tough mentors in there.
Yeah, you can. And that's part of it, John. That's where I was kind of going with it is the bad side of them having a really good and really airtight track for you to run on is there's no room for variance. You have got to do exactly their system. If you deviate at all or if anything doesn't jive with you, you're not going to make it. And the bottom line is if you're not completely bought into the system, you're not being genuine in front of your clients, they're going to smell that. They're going to be able to.
It's hard to be authentic.
It's hard to be authentic.
And I'm not disparaging a Kansas. I taught hundreds of advisors canned stuff. This is how we do it. This is our process. I teach advisors through this podcast that they need to have their own process. The difference is I always want them to be authentic and speak in their own voice.
And if I could add to that, because Brian Yarch and I just talked about this a couple months ago, actually it came up. And really the true value in getting started like that is having something to do and something to talk about because you don't know what to do or what to talk about. But the good advisors, as they get going, they start to figure it out. And that's when you kind of make it your own.
Yeah, it's sort of interesting when you're a younger advisor, you want to tell everybody how smart you are, what you can do. And now the older advisors, I watch Brian Yarch now, and he's a cagey old veteran, right? He's wily, like Wile E. Coyote.
Yes, he is.
But he'll sit back and I watch his client. The client does 60% of the talking, maybe even 70% with Brian, and then Brian speaks. And I think it's very wise, and that's why he's successful at what he does. And I think most successful advisors allow their clients to talk instead of being talked at. When I was a younger advisor, I had to show everybody I had a better widget. I had this, I had that, and look at my company, look at my company's rating. Well, I got a cool logo. All of this stuff doesn't matter in the client's eyes. It's what's in it for them.
Yes.
And we tend to, young reps don't understand that. So I think that's a great pearl. Okay, so let's look at the independent before the break here.
Yeah, absolutely. When it comes to being independent, literally, it's really important, really super important. And I kind of whiffed on round one, but when I left Edward Jones and you go independent, you have to be with a broker dealer that aligns with what you're doing because it is an independent world. It's much more open. You have open architecture on a lot of things. Nobody's breathing down your neck to get out and make your contacts that day.
Your accountability, I think that's what's great about our coaching programs. We put some accountability into it, which is different because that is a huge, it used to be two knocks you had in independent accountability, right? Which nobody wants because it's horrible.
Yeah.
Right. But you need it.
Yeah.
If you don't have self-discipline, you need accountability because accountability will lead to self-discipline and then you don't have to be worried about it. But the other thing was research. And I talked about this in an earlier podcast. When you were independent, a big firm would be like, we don't have the research capabilities. And you couldn't. But now with the information that's so readily available,
that's a good point.
You can get, we get stuff from every leading wirehouse you can imagine and research institute to help build client portfolios. And it costs us nothing, if anything. Whereas in 10 years ago, we had to pay for research.
Yeah.
And so that's sort of off. The internet's just wiped that out.
It has leveled that playing field.
We walk around with phones that have more information than we can consume. So, those are what's a good thing about being independent?
Well, it's just that. It's choosing your own adventure, and you get to be authentic. You actually get to do what you want to do. You get to use the products you want to use. You get to run meetings the way you want to run them. And that's why I was saying it's important to align yourself with a firm that is on the same page, because you have to be able to lean into them. But
yeah, I think there's a whole podcast there maybe on strategic alliances we should do, because it really does matter.
Yeah.
How you I just had a meeting with our compliance team, and I want pragmatic compliance. And those two words are never used together. But but I don't want the advisors frustrated because we're trying to mitigate risk. We have to. That's part of our job, right?
Yeah.
But we can't do it to stifle people. So we've got to make it so it's open and it's fair, but that we communicate. And I call that pragmatic. It's just realistic. There's certain things you just can't do because they're against the rules and regs of the industry.
Right.
And there's certain things where compliance doesn't need to carry the letter of the law because they don't understand the client need.
Yeah.
Someone just explained to me that they had a deaf and blind client, and they weren't allowed to put in their phone number. Their compliance team would not allow them put the phone number in the client's phone because it was manipulating electronic device. And I'm thinking, well, how in the heck are you going to communicate with this poor lady, right? So I understand why you manage to the lowest common denominator.
Yeah.
But you have to be realistic and saying this lady has got a special need that she needs help with, and we got to go above and beyond the code. And that can't be addressed in a compliance manual.
Nope.
Because if you address every single scenario, this compliance manual would be as tall as Mount Everest, and no one would read it.
Correct.
So,
and you know what, John? Actually, if I think that you set me up to finish the point that I was making, which is I've been trying.
I'm not setting you up to the end. I'm going to slaughter you. I'm going to slaughter you at the end. But
see, and I've been trying to avoid giving you a compliment. I was about to, but now I'm going to what? No. I do think, as I said, it's important to align with a firm. And John, what you just brought up right there, that's a great example of why I chose Regal. I'm not trying to go too much of a sales pitch here, but I was really attracted to the idea of a firm owned and run by advisors. You've sat in the seat. You're making big decisions as far as the firm level, but you've sat in the seat. You know what I got to talk to people about. And when you're crafting the compliance.
Yeah, there's nothing worse when you miss a sheet of paper because it wasn't in starting point, right?
Yeah.
You got to go back. I understand all those frustrations.
You get it.
And you try to mitigate. You try to do that with training. You try to do that with communication. We still make mistakes here or there because we're human beings, but never always make it right with the client. So when we come back, we're going to take a little break here. I want to talk to you about your ideal client profile, who you're trying to attract at Apex, and we'll cover that on the other side of the break. Fair enough?
Sounds good.
Thanks, buddy. All right, welcome back to the C4G podcast. That stands for Catalyst for Growth. You can catch us on the web at catalystforgrowth.org. And the number 4 is represented, not the word, but the number 4. So catalystforgrowth.org. We're sitting here with Mark Grooters today. Mark's a buddy of mine, and we work together on clients at Regal Apex, and wanted to share his opinion of the industry and some of the items that have shaped him to being an excellent advisor. So we're bringing him back after the break. We want to talk about your ideal client profile. Who is the guy you like to work with, the gal you like to work with? And don't tell me it's a golfer. Mark is a rabid golfer. So for those of you that aren't familiar with the golfing landscape in Michigan, it's incredible. We have, for a winter state, we have phenomenal golf courses.
Phenomenal.
And they're all over the place.
I'll never leave for that reason.
They're never, we have a short season, but man, you can really cram it in with some quality golf courses.
Check every box you could look for, and I played most of the good ones.
Yeah, you were just up at Arcadia, right?
I was indeed.
Which is, what are
number one?
They call that it's the Tahoe of the Midwest, right?
Yeah, exactly.
It's right on the bluffs of Lake Michigan. It's absolutely stunning.
Beautiful.
So what's your ideal client profile?
Yeah, so first of all, it starts with a really, really simple really simple qualification. Number one, and I hate to break it down like this, but either they have money or they're going to have money to invest. You have to have one of those two. Don't fall in love with somebody who you think has a good job or you think has a big name in the community. They have to have money to invest, or they have to be making money to invest.
All right, so you got that young kid who's I'll use my kid, right? Making good money, but he's young and he's not saving a lot of this, saving for a house, right?
Mm-hmm.
Do you help that kid or do you send him down the road?
You asked an ideal client. The answer is yes, I will help him.
Good
He is
answer.
not an ideal client, though.
And if you didn't help my son, I would understand because
Right.
Trey's aggravating.
Yeah, exactly. But
No.
no, so yes. So
You actually do help Trey. and
so
I
an
appreciate that.
ideal client, yes, has got to either have money or they're willing to
How much
save
money do you put? Do you put an age bracket on it? Do you put a dollar amount on it?
Not at all. Amazing. You never know. You might run into somebody who you're talking about it and you're talking to them and they've got
I can give you right now 5 of our clients that came in with $10,000 or $20,000 to start with, and now they have over 7 figures of that.
Absolutely. It's incredible. And
Mom died and they had a little thing and they brought it to me and I took care of it. And then, oh, by the way, I have this 401k. Can you take care of that? And, this is something that I don't know what this is. Can you? And it just builds. And next thing you know, you got 7 figures.
yeah, that's
But
exactly how it works.
It starts with, I call them little Mickey Mouse accounts, 10 grand, 20 grand, which, going back to the widow's mite, right? We've always got to be cautious because that $10,000 or $20,000 could be that entire person's life savings.
Yeah.
And even though it doesn't fit our profile, I think we have a responsibility to take care of that person just like we take care of the $1 million.
Agreed. Which is why I would. Yes.
And that's why the widow mite, you get the analogy about giving.
Yes. But really what we're looking for is our ideal clients are going to be established in their career, typically higher income earners and small business owners. Those would be our ideal clients.
Have you ever fired a client?
Yes.
Why?
Because he disrespected the branch office manager. And when I overheard him, how he was talking to her, and I came walking out of the office, I asked him what was going on. He continued with his raised voice to me. And I said, well, if you don't settle down, I was like, we're going to have a problem here. And he said, well, what are you going to do? And I said, well, we're going to get rid of you as a client. I'm going to fire you. Absolutely stopped him dead in his tracks. He didn't know how to handle it. And I said, I don't appreciate the way you just talked to Megan, and we're not going to do business.
Well,
I
hope we can't get fired for raised voice because you and I have very loud voices.
Oh, yeah.
You and I would get fired from our own firm.
And while we toe the line of disrespect, he was well over. And sometimes you just have to put your foot down.
Well, I don't know if we toe the line of disrespect with each other, but at Regal, at Apex, we fired clients just because they didn't align properly, right?
Absolutely. I fired several clients, and that's been one of them, yeah.
And it's a client you can't make happy, a client that is over demanding, a client that is over exaggerates things or not being truthful with source of funds, especially, and things like that. It's like we want all the business we can get.
Yep.
Right. They're hands down. But I've always used these 4 rules in my business career. Number 1, we've got to be aligned. 2, it's got to be ethical. 3, it's got to be profitable. And I've out negotiated some people, and they've out negotiated me. Those relationships never last. No. And 4, it's got to be fun. If the client's a pain in the tail to deal with, you just know. You got to move on. It's that old country song. You don't have to go home, but you have to get the hell out of here.
Yep.
And there's a right broker for every client. We just might not be the right one for that. So I think firing clients is something that people don't talk about enough in the industry.
Completely agree, John.
And it's different on a broker dealer than it is the RA. You want to cover that a little bit?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I mean, the bottom line is you're required to be working closely with anybody on the RIA side. And for whatever reason, any of the number of reasons that we just laid out there, if you're not meshing there, you need to have that conversation with them.
Clients not returning phone calls.
Yes. Yes.
And you've got an annual review to do. You got things to talk to them. They don't return your phone calls. Well, I know you got it all covered. No, you need to communicate with me. If you don't communicate with me and I can't document it, we can't
work together.
Yeah.
And you, me, and Brian have to make those decisions on our clients. Not all the time, but
I think Brian makes those decisions for me and you a lot.
Yeah, exactly.
Brian is quick on the switch, man. Brian sees a little. Brian is boom.
He's got a quick trigger. Yeah,
he is. He's the Wyatt Earp, not the Wyatt Earp. Wyatt Earp would be a lawman. Yeah, Wyatt Earp. He's not
Wyatt Earp. Yeah,
he's not Doc Holliday.
No, he's Wyatt Earp. But I will say, John, that I like how you said it's not talked about enough. I would encourage every advisor that if you have a gut feeling to fire a client, do it. Number 1. It's empowering. It shows them that you're still running the book of business instead of them running you.
There's got to be a whole podcast done that we need to do about control of a client.
Yes.
And how you need to shepherd them in the right direction, not for a sale, but for ethically for the end result. Because left to their own devices, they usually zig when they should zag.
Yep.
And they make emotional decisions. And if you control the internet, so that you just gave me an idea for another podcast. So thank you for that. I cut you off. You want to?
No, I would say, number one, I just think it's empowering. And number two, watch how the client reacts. They start singing a real different tune real fast because all of a sudden they realize what they just done.
Yeah, we've given clients sort of warnings, and they've taken a step back and reassessed things. And
I would say more times than not, that's what happens.
Yeah, we keep them. Yeah, so that's happened. All right, so here's a fun question. I got a couple fun questions at the end.
What do we got?
And you know these are the ones that you've been dreading this year. Your knees bouncing. You know something's coming, Grooters. You know I'm a world-class wise ass, so something's coming here.
I've been warned.
What's the oddest client or prospect appointment you've had? The most bizarre.
Man. I mean, I'll tell you right now that I think that, oh man, I hope this kind of fits what you're looking for. But I remember one time I was back and this is back in the Edward Jones days, and I was still prospecting. I was knocking on doors, and lady answers the door, and I introduced myself, told her where I was from. She immediately broke down and started bawling and crying right there on her doorstep. And when I asked her what had happened, she said, I'm going through a divorce. My husband cheated on me with a woman who works at Edward Jones. And my stomach absolutely dropped. And I just,
what did you do?
Where's the escape button, right? Well,
because that's when you guys used to door knock.
Yes,
right?
I was standing on her doorstep, and she said that. I've never wanted an escape button so bad. I just politely apologized. But you know what I did before I left? I knew she was going through a divorce. I figured she probably wanted help. So I asked her if she would need a financial advisor. She's going through it. And she said yes. She gave me her phone number. I called her a couple weeks later. She was a client.
What a save.
Mm-hmm.
What a save. I don't know if I would have had the chutzpah to do that.
I didn't think she was going to.
I think I would have been so in shock. My first response would have been to be over apologetic. I'm sorry. That's not the fiber of our firm. I'm sorry that happened with one of our associate. I would have taken probably at that point in time, going back to my corporate days, I would have taken the corporate apologist and defender. And I don't know if I would have had the chutzpah to ask for the appointment. So good for you.
Bottom line, John, well, you're right. And I almost did that. But the bottom line is, you know what? She didn't need sympathy. She needed help going through a divorce and handling the finances. That's what she appreciated. So, yep, that was a pretty good one. I got a whole bunch more, though.
Give me another one.
Oh, man. Well, all right. Actually, so door knocking in that same neighborhood earlier that year.
Okay, first of all, why didn't you stay out of that neighborhood? Oh, you had territories, right?
I had territories, yes.
Oh, man.
Yep. So in that same...
you could probably drive to the house, but you still have a little creepy feeling?
Mm-hmm. I know exactly where it is. Yeah.
See, that would bother. I haven't shared with the audience the weirdest one I had, but it was up in Howard City, Michigan. And it was country, and I could take you right there. It's off of 2 dirt roads. You take 2 lefts, and I could take you right to the house. It's probably still not finished. It's one of those houses that was under construction for 30 years, black tar paper and everything. And I went in there and saw some of the most disgusting things I ever saw. And I still can't get the image out of my head, but I could take you to that spot, and it's been 30 years.
Yeah. Yeah. Isn't that crazy? It sticks with you. Yep. There's some good ones out there.
You try to purge that from a memory, but it just doesn't.
Hey, man, I love my clients, but people are a trip.
So what's another one? Do you got a quick one for us?
Yeah, we'll do a quick one here. Yes. I was just in that neighborhood. There was a guy. I knocked on the door, and of course, I'm wearing my suit. I got my Edward Jones name tag on. I answered the door, and he says, what are you doing? You're trespassing. I told him what I was doing. He said, you don't work at Edward Jones. And I was like, what do you mean? Yes, I do. I'm a financial advisor. He goes, no, you don't. And I go, well, I've got my name tag here, and I've got some business cards. He goes, you just had that name tag made, and you had some business cards you printed out. And so I said, all right, well, I'm sorry. I don't mean to bother you. He goes, yeah, I'll bet you're sorry. I'm calling the police. About 100 yards down the road, I got stopped by some police officer for canvassing a neighborhood.
Because that's the greatest imposter scheme in the whole world. Posing as an
almost
Edward
had
Jones
him, John. I almost had him.
What?
Yeah. So yeah, people are a trip, but yeah.
Now that's, you deal with the general public. You never know what you're going to get. And it's a whole other dynamic knocking on doors. I never did that. And I could see some benefits of it, but I definitely could see some horror stories.
4+ years.
Horror stories.
Mm-hmm.
All right. One last fun question here. Oh, I'll make it 2. What's your perfect day?
C4G is a service-disabled, veteran-owned business. Thank you, Deborah. And all those that have served our great country. You can contact C4G at info@catalystforgrowth.org or call us at 813-454-0557.
My perfect day, it would start 3 hours before I actually work. I would wake up 3 hours before I actually work. I have a whole morning routine that I go through where I kind of do some posture exercises, meditation. I like to get a little yoga in the morning and then a little jog.
Do you practice gratitude?
Absolutely. That's part of my meditation process.
Can you share that a little bit? I know that's personal, but I think people need to learn that because I think there's certain people in our organization that I've really, you go through your day and you're busting your hump and you forget. And when you take moments out, there's certain people in our organization that I'm around them. They just remind me to have gratitude, right?
John, gratitude is my reset button. Okay. It is my reset button. And I'm talking about when you're having a bad day or something's going wrong, it's easy to get angry. It's easy to take it out on the next person you talk to. It's easy to go home early and crack a beer. But you know what? It's better if you just take a deep breath, think about something that you're thankful for. I have a gratitude list that's on my phone. So anytime I think the world sucks, I have nothing to be thankful for, I have a list right there on my phone I can break out that's got probably about 20 some odd things right there that I'm thankful for.
Individual things like, I know you have it, I'll just make something up. Ron, your dog.
That's absolutely on there.
So it's just like, I own my own home.
I'm thankful that I have a dog that loves me and is well behaved. I'm thankful that I have parents that are super supportive.
I've met your dad. I don't know if that's a good, no. But that's interesting because people talk about I want to manifest gratitude, and a lot of times when I hear that, they're sort of empty. They're not authentic. And I know you're a very authentic person. You do what you say you're going to do, and I thought just knowing you, it would have been more spiritual. Mm-hmm. More Christian based. Mm-hmm. So it's interesting that your gratitude is really focused in on items that are tangible and not philosophical.
No,
I think most gratitude is sort of manifested philosophically.
Yeah.
But yet the people that most need to hear gratitude from us are the people that we touch every single day and see. Yeah. Right? I'm grateful for Regal and the people that are in my life, right?
I'll bet.
Because this team overcomes so many of my flaws and shortcomings, right? And so you surround yourself with people that may not have your skill set, but have a skill set that is in your one of your deficiencies. And that is a moment of gratitude. When I look at it, I'm like, wow, I don't really see the world that person does, but I'm glad they do, because without them, I would have my flank would be open, right? And I know they're covering it. And that's a moment of gratitude. How else do you manifest gratitude?
Yeah. So when you say how else do you manifest gratitude?
Is it just going through that list? Do you think about the thing in the list and do you pray about it? Or is it just a conscious thought, like in a meditation?
It's the conscious thought. That's why I said it's my reset button.
Gotcha.
And positive thoughts breed more positive thoughts. All right. Okay. That is part of the manifesting gratitude, that whole mantra that's out there. But it is true. And if you start thinking about things it's really hard to be angry. It's really hard to be down when you're thankful and great and gracious for what you have.
I'll just share a quick story with you here, and we're at the end of the podcast, but I was hunting with my son in Bolivia. I just came back. In Bolivia, per capita, don't quote me on this, is like $3,200 per person. The United States is $76, $79. Yep. So you go there, and I'm talking to a police officer, and I just look up on the net. That police officer is college educated, is making $3,600 a year, makes $300 a month. And we're going through the countryside, we're bird hunting, we're going out to where we were hunting our blinds, and there's these little sheds There's no running water. There's no education. There's no bathroom. There's no electricity. There's nothing. And I'm thinking how grateful I am that I got to be born here, right? Just a simple thing like that these people who are probably good, hardworking people will never have the opportunities that we have because of this country. And it just touches you and it hits you like a brick sometimes. That's a very graphic and real example that I just live, but it's perfect, it sort of resets you.
That's I was going to say, that's using gratitude as a reset button. Yeah. The other way that you use it is when things are going well. If you make a couple good phone calls, if you get a good sale, just remember that positivity is going to breed more. Be grateful for that. Take a moment, be thankful, because you know what? The next call might add right to it. You get a third, fourth sale in a row.
I've always told advisors when I'm training them to get on the phone, especially when we used to do a lot of cold calling, which isn't in vogue anymore, but I'd always say sandwich your calls.
Yes.
Have a couple good calls that you knew were callbacks or clients, have some real positive, get the mojo flowing, get some good yeses, then go to your hard call list and then end on some easier calls. And so you're grateful for that experience, because then it's not all doom and gloom. You're not just getting your head bashed in the wall, that you've had some success and it can manifest into more success, because it is an energy thing. And both you and I are religious people, so I'm not going to get into the crystals and all of that. I mean, but there is an energy about it, and there's an attitude about it.
There is, and
when you practice it, it happens more often than not.
Agreed, and that's what you just described there. I call that a gratitude rally. So I use gratitude as a reset button.
Gratitude rally.
Yeah, it's a rally.
I've never heard that.
Yeah,
I love that, a gratitude rally.
Yep. So I use it as a reset button and a rally.
This is exactly why we do this podcast. I've known you how many years?
6 years now.
Been that long? You know,
roughly.
It's that old joke. If I was terminally ill and had 2 weeks to live, I'd hang around with you because it seems like forever.
Nice.
6 years.
I'll take that as a compliment.
Yeah, I'm living forever. I'm hanging out with Mark Grooters. One last quick song.
Yeah.
One last quick thing. I know you're a huge sports fan.
Yep.
What would be, and you love music, and I thought of this question specifically for you. What is your walk-up song?
Oh, man.
If you were going to the tee box,
yep,
or you're in the MLB and you're walking up, what's Mark Grooters' walk-up song?
Rolling Stones, Gimme Shelter.
Oh.
That is badass. The first 30, 45 seconds of that is a badass intro.
All right, what would be another? That would surprise me. I'm a huge Rolling Stones fan.
Yeah.
I've seen them a bunch of times. Still can't believe they're alive.
Nobody can.
Maybe they're not alive. Maybe it's a hologram. I don't know. But they still put out a good show. We had an event not too long ago. Well, I guess it was before COVID, so it was a while. But we had the center suite at Soldier Field and watched them. Ooh. And it was really cool with a bunch of advisors. So that was way before you. So 6 years would be way before. But it just seems like yesterday. But what would be another one? Because I know you're a music junkie.
Yeah.
You listen to a lot of music.
Yep, for sure. So I think that the other one, and this, I'm stealing one here. Do you remember the UFC fighter, Matt Hughes?
No.
All right. He was kind of a early 2000s fighter. He always walked out to Hank Williams' Country Boy Can't Survive. And I thought that was an awesome walkout song.
I've never heard that I know the song well, right? I think everybody who's listening knows the song. I never thought about it as a walk-up song.
He's from somewhere in a flyover state, and he was just a farmer, and he was a UFC fighter.
That's a great one.
I thought that was a really good one.
Especially for MMA.
Yes.
That's pretty cool. Well, Mark, I appreciate you taking time out of the schedule. I know we've got a lot of clients to serve and a lot of people to take care of. I appreciate you spending time with me today and helping our audience understand a little bit more about what a top advisor does, how they think, and how you're sort of wrapped and what makes you tick and flow, because that will help them on their journey. And that's what this is all about. So thank you for your time, and appreciate you doing this.
Very welcome. Always happy to help, John.
Well, don't say that. I'll have you on a lot more. So, all right. Thank you. Thank you for listening to the C4G podcast. You can tune in next week, and we'll have another exciting episode regarding views of a field advisor, views of thought leadership in this industry, and how we can all become better. Appreciate you tuning in. Have a great day.
Hey, thank you for your time today. We will have another content-packed session posted next week. Please check our website, catalystforgrowth.org, for our legal disclosures on the bottom of our homepage, if you're into that sort of thing.